Hey, welcome back to Taste for Adventure, and today we are talking about an all-American style, the style that started the hop craze around the world. I am talking, of course, about...
American Pale Ales.
That's right.
What is an American Pale Ale? How is that different from like another kind of a, let's say, session IPA kind of thing?
Well, so back when the style really started, kind of the modern craft beer era, I think really started because of beers like Sierra Nevada, the Cascade hop, which is kind of the quintessential classic American hop, sort of came out in the late 70s. Sierra Nevada came out, I think, in 1980. And really started this modern craft beer era of hop-forward, very flavorful beers, going away from, the classic, more malt-driven imported beers like German and British styles, or the, the post-war, fizzy water, your light beer,
Adjunct, American
that's right.
lager.
Yeah, so it was kind of a return to big, bold flavors, and really for the first time, super hoppy. And as to answer your question here, like how is it different from like a session IPA? We didn't have terms like session IPA back then. I don't think we even really had terms like session or IPA didn't really mean what it means today, right? So IPA was India Pale Ale. It was a British style, that was heavily hopped as a preservative. Right?
Okay, right, yes, of course. Yeah.
But I think today, beer consumers know that when you store a very hoppy beer for a fair amount of time, it loses a lot of its hoppy flavors. So really, an IPA historically still didn't have the big hop-forward flavors and notes that even an American Pale Ale has.
Yeah.
Modern session IPAs differ from pale ales in that they are still going to be even hoppier and more bitter.
Oh boy.
Where a pale ale is going to be pretty balanced.
Okay, so that's good. Yeah.
A session IPA is going to be very similar to an American pale ale, except in as far as like maybe color, the kind of low to moderate alcohol range.
Okay.
But it's going to have an even stronger, like bitter, intense hoppiness.
Yeah.
Where an American Pale Ale, really, especially a classic example of an American Pale Ale, is going to be a lot more approachable. It's going to have a smooth, moderate bitterness, not an extreme bitterness, and a nice hop flavor that is accentuated by a good malt background. It should not be all hops.
No, of course not. Yeah, this is really the kind of style that I really, really associate with summer.
Absolutely.
I'll be in my local liquor store. I'll be at, maybe a craft beer centric liquor store, and I just see oodles and oodles of pale ales, IPAs. I'm seeing so many hazy IPAs. It's crazy. But pale ales, Sierra Nevada is always just kind of omnipresent.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of beers in the pale ale style. We've got 3 of them on today's episode, so I think we'd be a little remiss to have Sierra Nevada's Pale Ale right here, front and center. Not try that.
Yep. So really looking forward to really dissecting Sierra Nevada's Pale Ale, one of the beers that started it all. And what else do we have?
By Metazoa, we have Crocodilian. And finally, we have Ale Asylum's Beerio.
Okay. Thank you for the nice pour of this really beautiful sparkling beer.
Wow. I mean, it's just, you can see right through it.
Well, when you take these wine glasses off, you can see right through it. Yeah. Yeah.
That is amazingly clear.
Beautiful golden color. Mm-hmm. It's not as light as straw, but I mean, look at the way the light is shining through. I mean, it's just like casting this golden light.
Yeah, the clarity is insane.
Yeah, definitely not hazy.
No.
Yeah.
Not so much. So the head didn't really stick around. Is that super indicative of the style?
I think the head should normally be white to off-white. It should have pretty good retention.
Yeah.
I just washed these glasses with a little bit of PBW cleaner, so that detergent might.
Think that affected it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you don't rinse a glass super well, or if you use like soap, that can actually really negatively impact head retention.
Oh, good to know.
So yeah, I just gave these glasses a quick rinse, and I might have been a little heavy on the.
That's probably why a beer judge would normally use a disposable cup.
That's one of the reasons. I mean, plus also just like cleaning, hundreds of cups would be a nightmare.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, always rinse your glasses really well. It's actually good to give them a little rinse, even if they've been cleaned and then sitting on a shelf.
Yeah.
Proper serving technique. You probably see the bartenders like usually rinse the glass before they pour it.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of recommended even by like Cicerone.
Yeah, that fancy sort of beer shooting or that water shooting up thing in the bar. Yeah. It's great.
So I'm gonna give this.
The nose is really nice. It's really strongly kind of like I feel like it's like kind of citrusy a little bit. In there, kind of maybe a little peppery.
This is one of the beers that really feature that classic American Cascade hop, and I think some of the most notable characteristics of Cascade are grapefruit and floral.
Grapefruit and floral. Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's definitely where you're getting some of that citrus.
Definitely. There's a lot of people that associate the whole craft beer scene with how hoppy is your beer.
Yeah.
Is your beer hoppy or if it's not hoppy, it's not craft beer.
Right.
It's like that sort of periphery, like learning, like kind of like, oh yeah, I'm into craft beer. It's like I love Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. It's like that's a good start. It's not the end all be all.
There are definitely worse beers to really enjoy because it's still it's in the BJCP as a classic example of style still to this day.
Well, that's great. It's got the bitterness in there for sure, but it's not like it's not overpowering my taste buds.
No, and I think that is as such an integral part of an American pale ale is that it should not be all hops, even if it's dry hops. Yeah. You have to have that malt backbone. There's a reason why this is a nice kind of a honey gold color and not just like a pale straw. It's more than just a hop delivery system. You need to have some malt depth to it to balance it.
And the malt is definitely there in the taste. You can definitely taste the malt.
We talked about Pilsners recently, where it's just all crackery. Right. It's kind of in between there with, I think, a restrained use of caramel malts that give it a little bit of depth and sweetness.
Yeah, there's a slight sweetness there.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy with the amount of bitterness that's going on.
Yeah, I think the two really help to balance each other out. The bitterness on one side of the scales and the sweetness from probably the caramel and color malts on the other side of the scales.
It's definitely a complexly flavored beer.
Mm-hmm.
There's depth to it that you might not get with something like a Pilsner,
sure,
or a generic lager kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, just like the style is an American classic, I definitely still agree that Sierra Nevada is absolutely an American classic. Mm-hmm. I know they make a whole lineup of other pale ales and IPAs. Their celebration is always good every year.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to that, usually in the late fall.
Sure.
It's really good. And they have some really good other beers that, I think they're known because of this flagship beer. They're known for their hoppier stuff.
That's so popular.
Yep. But some of their other ones, they have like Narwhal. They have like a barley wine that is in the BJCP as a classic example of an American barley wine.
Ah,
so they're definitely not
pretty good.
Yeah, they're not a one-trick pony type of brewery.
That's a different brewery.
That is a different brewery. Yeah.
Well, up next we've got Crocodilian by Metazoa.
Nice.
So
okay.
We I believe I supplied that one.
You brought that one out, and Metazoa is like
they're big. They're getting big.
They're getting big, and they're
really
like
big.
Maybe my favorite Indianapolis craft brewery.
Really,
I should have worn my.
I was going to say you had your Metazoa. Yeah,
I know. I opted for the Sierra Nevada hat.
Yeah, Sierra Nevada green.
But we will, I'm sure, have Metazoa at another point.
Have a lot more Metazoa talk.
Yeah, it's a very animal-themed craft brewery.
Yeah.
It's great because people can bring their pets in there. One time I was sitting there having a beer and a little bunny rabbit was hopping across the bar. It was awesome. And I think they do a lot with animal shelter charities, and a lot of the proceeds of their beers go to animal support stuff.
Yeah.
So really cool beer brewery. They put out good beer, and has a cause that I definitely support. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, let's try their Crocodilian. Metazoa's
Crocodilian, yes.
Crocodilian.
So, just kind of taking a look at the can here, and there's it's covered with information.
It's got all the stat block and everything. I feel like I'm going to add this to my fantasy team.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah, it does kind of. I guess you could really call them the Disney princesses of the beer world. They've got this drink beer, help animals mantra.
Sure. What Disney princesses drink beer?
Well, Snow White's German, right? She's got
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Those dwarves.
Oh yeah.
Yep. The 7 dwarves. Tipsy, surly. Maybe that's the 7 Duff beers. Bitterness is squarely in the middle. Malt is more in the first quarter. Not really sure if that means anything.
Yeah, I mean it's still marketing, but it's kind of cool that they give that information.
Yeah, and then for this can collaboration, Metazoa Brewing Company is donating 5% of can sales to the Indianapolis Zoo in honor of its largest exhibit, Alligators and Crocodiles: The Fight to Survive.
Ooh, all right.
The appearance, yes, very similar, a little bit more paler of gold.
Definitely paler. Yep.
So that's where that color difference is.
Yep. Still not as pale as straw. It's definitely like a very, very light gold, more of like a yellow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, straight yellow.
Yep.
The nose is different. And they're not using the same hop.
That's right. So the Sierra Nevada was really all Cascade.
Yep.
And this one,
the Huell Melon,
the Huell Melon.
So I think Centennial was the other one?
Centennial and Columbus.
Yeah.
So those are still going to have a lot of similar characteristics to Cascade. Be kind of citrusy, a little piney.
Yeah.
A little kind of dank and resinous. But then the Huell Melon is a curveball. And Huell Melon, they say, actually has some properties of a melon. And
ooh.
I'm getting a hard to detect fruitiness that's hard to put your finger on.
Maybe it doesn't make any sense, but it felt like high up in my nose, if that makes any kind of sense at all. I might just be getting really esoteric here, but
almost like a touch of cantaloupe.
Yeah, there's something that I'm picking up that I'm perceiving in the back of my head.
Sure.
That's wow, this is definitely different. But how and why?
It's less in of that citrusy burst, right? Which hits you as soon as you take the whiff, with the Cascade hop. Mm-hmm. The Huell Melon has a ton of fruit characteristics, but you're right, it is much more subtle. It's definitely drier than the Sierra Nevada. In kind of the flavor and definitely in the finish and balance.
Yeah, I could definitely kind of see where there's kind of a grapefruity, kind of a citrus fruity taste. It's in there. It's in the mix. It's less malty, I feel.
It is less malty. It's more hop forward.
Yes.
But the malts definitely there, but they just don't have as much of that roundness as the Sierra Nevada did. Yeah. And I think you can look at the color and kind of make that estimation as well. I'm definitely getting some of that Centennial and Columbus flavor.
Yeah.
That's going to be where some more of that pine and just kind of the straight up a little bit more bitterness is as well. Because I think those are more potent bittering and more piney than a Cascade will be.
Sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But that Huell Melon really softens it up and adds that fruit twist to it.
It's not a fruited beer at all. So it is kind of amazing that it's got a fruitiness to it.
Yeah. But a fruitiness that you can tell is definitely from a hop.
Right. It's not from added fruit. It's not from anywhere else. It's definitely hop flavor.
This one I would say is much more firmly better than the Sierra Nevada.
Oh, 100%. This is
Yeah, there's not really any sweetness in the finish, and the aftertaste is like a drying, almost astringent, and lingering bitterness.
It's very lingering. I feel like I would love a glass of water at the same time as drinking this.
I think this is one that it kind of really kind of maybe steps over the line into more of a session IPA versus a pale ale because it is so much more hop forward and a little bit less in balance than the Sierra Nevada.
Yeah.
Still a great beer, but just really comparing the two, this one's more firmly bitter.
Yeah. A lot. Now, does the BJCP give a lot of wiggle room in terms of bitterness units?
Yeah, I mean there's definitely still a range. I was just looking at that, and it said that this has 40 IBUs.
Ooh.
So, which is kind of getting up there, but not crazy. It's definitely not like traditional IPA levels.
Yeah. I've had some ones in the near hundreds.
Yeah. According to the BJCP guidelines, the IBUs can go up as high as 50, so it's not even at the very top end. But I think what this one lacks is that counterpunch of a really rich malt backbone.
Yeah, there's not as much maltiness to this.
Yeah.
Our last one's Ale Asylum's Beerio.
Okay.
So I've been staring at that can, kind of peeking over there every once in a while. So we'll see what kind of funky can stuff they got going on that one.
Yeah.
All right. Got Beerio.
Here we go with Beerio.
Here we go with Beerio. Nice head retention. I think the head retention is a little bit better than the other beers.
Head retention looks good. It's almost the same color as the Croc.
Yep.
And super crystal clear.
Yep.
So,
it really is.
Yeah, definitely not a hazy pale ale.
Nope. You got your nice Italian plumber themed can there.
That's right. Kind of a punk. He's like.
Yeah.
He's like flipping us off.
Is he?
Drinking his beer.
What?
Yeah, look, flip the art around.
He's pissed here.
There's 3 pieces of art.
He's got the he's got his back. He's flipping the bird.
Yeah, this does have an incredible nose though.
It
Very
does,
tropical.
It is.
Very tropical. Very fruit forward. It's almost like a fruit salad.
Yeah,
like
I can definitely pick out more of the berries and more of the citrus.
Yeah, and. Really not as much of like the pine, especially compared to the last one.
Yeah.
Or even like the Cascade. It has less of that like kind of greenness, and it's just really very fruit forward. Yeah. Once more, like Sierra Nevada, I think is such a classic because there is still not really a lot of malt character to speak of in this beer.
No, not a ton.
I mean, it's there. It's like kind of light, kind of bready.
Mm-hmm.
And what malt is there is pretty pleasant, but it doesn't kind of counterbalance that big hop burst that we get in the aroma.
It's still very hoppy.
Yeah, I feel like if this was a bit more malty, maybe use some of those like German malts, like a Vienna or a Munich, or even like some low caramel malts, like I think Sierra Nevada uses, could help to round out this beer overall a little bit better.
Yeah, that's possible. Definitely possible.
And that's just to make it more in line with like a perfect example of a pale ale style.
Yeah.
I think this is still a great beer to drink.
Absolutely. Now, do you think kind of people use pale ales and IPAs to sort of, as almost like a canvas? To kind of just try out different things? Because of all that, we've tasted 3 very different beers today.
Yeah, so like as a style to try out different hops or
to
hop
just
blends
try out
things.
different hop blends, try out different kind of you probably could have got like a fruited pale ale. There's a lot. I feel like you can do a lot with the pale ale as a style.
So once you find your base malt for a pale ale, you can absolutely then start playing around with all these different varieties. Every new hop brewing cultivar that comes out, you say, okay, I know my base I'm going to go to, and maybe my bittering hop. Maybe do like a Centennial and a Cascade, and then throw in an Idaho Gem. Or we talked about doing a smash beer. With the Kolsch. You can do your base malt and then just go all of one new hop that you want to explore. And then you know exactly what that hop is giving you because that's the only hop that's in there.
Right. I'd be interested in seeing, like, I feel like that would be great to just sort of develop palate too.
Yeah.
You talk about just like if you're home brewing and you do that single hop, it's like, wow, okay, this is really what that tastes like. This is what this hop tastes like. You'd really learn a lot about hop characteristics.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's kind of what they're doing here with Beerio, because it says right there, Idaho Gem Hop Pale Ale.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that it absolutely features that.
You know what you're getting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I still think that using a very neutral, clean bittering hop early on can help, because some of the hops, there's different hop compounds and hop oils in different varieties of hops.
Yes.
And some of them can have a harsher bitterness.
Okay.
So I think something really clean like a German Hercules or an American Magnum hop.
Okay.
Just plan for that for your bittering addition. Just so you know that you have that consistent, clean bitterness. Right. And then use your single hop or like hop blend in your, after 15 minutes. So 15-minute, 10-minute, 5-minute whirlpool or dry hop or combination or stagger throughout.
Yeah.
To really get an idea of what your featured hop or hop blends can really give you.
Yeah.
But still go with the classic bittering hop, I think.
Yeah.
That would be my best advice.
Yeah.
So,
That's interesting. Now, what if you were to use the same hop for all of those additions?
I mean, then you get a depth of that hop.
Yeah.
But it could also be tricky because you don't know how that hop might change from dry hop to, say, a 10-minute boil addition.
Okay.
But it could give you really a good, well-rounded definition of that flavor.
I'd be interested in tasting something that was just like, just all one continuous hop.
Yeah.
All different styles.
I mean, the only way to really know is to brew the same beer like every weekend. And, one weekend it's okay, I'm just dry hopping with this hop. Another weekend it's okay, it's going to be at the Whirlpool. Another weekend it's the 15-minute edition. And then compare them side by side and see if you can even detect a difference.
That's going to be your smaller batch. It's got it in the name. I mean, you think about the German breweries that have been around for nearing a millennia, and they've taken that time. They've honed their craft. They're in the style guidelines as primary examples of the style. I almost feel like the American Pale Ale could be the beginning of that really refined, style for the Americas.
Yeah.
You've got the big German ones, you've got the big, they do their thing. This could definitely be a contender for that kind of, it's like, okay, yeah, really great American Pale Ale brewery for, centuries.
Sure. Well, certainly...
certainly
the hop contribution is the big American contribution to the global craft beer.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, and it did really all start with the humble pale ale before you got the IPA and all of its dozens of varieties that we're into now. And hey, I love the experimentation and all of the different branching ways that we've taken IPA, but don't forget about its baby brother, but also the originator in the American Pale Ale.
Yeah. Well, I think we covered 3 really great beers on this episode.